The Richard Roeper Show is brought to you by AmericanEagle.com Studios. The digital landscape is changing rapidly, and to compete in today's online business environment, you need that experienced partner. Since 1995, AmericanEagle.com has partnered with companies of all sizes, offering web design, web development, e-commerce, mobile apps, and digital marketing, all to drive your overall business's success because they believe that today's online world is your online opportunity. Visit AmericanEagle.com to get started today. AmericanEagle.com. That's AmericanEagle.com. All right. Welcome to the podcast. Our mission, should you choose to accept it, is to talk about what might be the final Mission Impossible movie. That's what they're saying, but then maybe they're saying it's not. It's called, the titles have always, the first one was called Mission: Impossible. Not about your colon, but the punctuation. Then Mission: Impossible 2, and then they went in Mission Impossible 3, and then Mission: Impossible - Ghost Protocol, probably the best of the bunch. Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, another great one. Mission Impossible Fallout, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Mission Impossible Now, The Final Reckoning. The Final Reckoning. It comes out next week, so I'll get into more detail on a review for you guys next week's podcast. But the embargo is lifted and people are talking about it. And I will say this. Like the Mission Impossible movies, some I think have been uneven. I wasn't really a huge fan of the first one, although I've gone back and thought maybe I was a little too tough on it. It's been basically the American James Bond franchise for Tom Cruise, and he's spectacular in it. And you might have seen a little publicity through the years of him doing his own stunts. And, he's a master at being a old-fashioned Hollywood movie star, very good actor, and also at promotion. And we saw all the lead up to these incredible stunts with the biplane and all of that with Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I will say this, though, when you spend $400 million on a movie, and it's clearly a huge set piece film with tons of extras and exotic locations and big epic production numbers, both in the sky, on land, and even underwater, I wish they had spent a little more time on a script. And I know people say, people don't go to these action movies for story, but you actually do when you think about it. Die Hard is one hell of a story and a terrific script. A lot of big budget entertainment movies, even if we're getting into the fantasy films like the Harry Potter films or the Lord of the Rings films, there are actually compelling stories and characters in there. And while the core group in Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, somewhat interesting characters, a lot of them have always been one-dimensional, but you still have to, we're back. And this, by the way, is part 2 of a film of the last film. So it's like with the Dune movie, we're getting like 5.5 hours of really just one movie. And that's fine if the material carries it. But, we're back in that story that we've seen over and over and over again, where it's either an arch villain, a superhero entity who lives in outer space, or an artificial intelligence entity known as the Entity. And it's all about how they're going to take complete control of all the information in the world and control the global markets and control the nuclear codes and control everything. And there's always a MacGuffin, of course, as we call it, a key or a disk drive or a program, and everybody's trying to get it. And that's what this is all about. And this is the kind of movie where everybody has to stop about every 45 minutes or so and give us exposition because it's so convoluted and so all over the place. So now they're going to lay out exactly what needs to happen. And if it doesn't happen, it's going to be the end of the world as we know it. But if it does happen, here's our plan. And it's 3-pronged. And sometimes you see the flash forward as they try to, explain how the plan's going to go. And at nearly 3 hours, this film could have benefited from some judicious editing. A lot of times I think when they film these hyper charged big budget action films, if you spend $25 million on a single sequence, you want to put it in your movie. And I don't know if there's anybody that has the power or the editing acumen. They do have the editing acumen. It's whether they want to do it or not, to say, what? We'd actually be better off if we cut this scene completely or at least trimmed it, because it goes on forever just because we could do it with practical effects and incredible stunt work by Tom Cruise and the stunt doubles and everything else we did. But there are moments in this film where I'm like, okay, yeah, that's very impressive. And yep, that's really Tom Cruise. And he's searching for this thing or he's battling this guy. And there's another beat and they're still doing it. And your mind actually starts to wander saying, okay, we know how this is going to end. Let's get to it. More on that movie next week. Tom Cruise this week at the Cannes Film Festival, a surprise appearance that probably surprised very few people. There was a master class with Christopher McQuarrie, the director. McHugh and Tom Cruise showed up, and I love the fact that he said, "I'm a diehard believer in the big screen experience, and what makes this film special is hundreds of strangers all coming together to sit in a room. I'm with him on that 100%." He was asked about if this is really the end of the multi-billion-dollar franchise, and Tom said, "I'd rather just people see it and enjoy it. We've had an amazing time doing it. It's been a lot of fun, and just enjoy it." And leave it at that. Because, never say never. They certainly leave it open that there could be more. Tom Cruise is very aware of the fact that he's just at that, point where he can still pull it off easily. But, at some point you'd be like, well, I don't know if the guy, heading this possible Mission Force team would be in his 60s, that sort of thing. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Other news from Cannes, the film festival, they're telling celebs to cover up on the red carpet. No naked dresses, they're saying. They've updated the dress code and they say you can't have the long train because that hinders the proper flow of traffic guests, and no nudity. And I think they mean like see-through, because I don't think anybody has actually just showed up completely nude on the red carpet. But in recent years, on some of these other events, Met Gala, Oscars, Emmys, Golden Globes, whatever, some of the fine actors choose to show a lot of skin, and the Cannes Film Festival is saying, tone it down. I do like that they're saying enough with these long trains. It's so ridiculous when people are stepping on each other's train. It's just, it looks great on the red carpet, and then it's a pain in the ass the rest of the time. Now, we don't talk a lot about casting news on the podcast because I'm reticent to make judgments before we see the final product. There have been a lot of cases in the past where the casting seemed outside the box, as the kids say, or not the kids. Nobody says that anymore, I guess. But you know what I mean? Where it seems like a little unusual and people get all up in arms, and then it turns out it was a great choice. Way back in the day when Michael Keaton was announced as Batman, people were saying, like, wait a minute, that funny comedian, comic actor, Michael Keaton? It was almost as if they had said Bill Murray as Batman, and they turned out to be a great Batman. And it happens a lot where people say, I just don't see this person in that role. We tend to get caught up sometimes if they're playing real life figures or very, very well-known comic book figures, iconic characters. They have to look a certain way. And, well, you don't really have to look like the person you're playing, and makeup and hair and digital stuff can help. But I want to talk about these casting decisions and announcements that came out this week, because I think two are fantastic and have great potential, and one I'm going to have to force myself to watch it because I need to watch these things so you guys don't have to. There's a Madden movie coming out. Nicolas Cage and Christian Bale it's Madden the movie. I want to give credit here. This is from Deadline. Mike Fleming Jr. had the scoop. As Amazon MGM Studios began production Tuesday on Madden, Deadline is bringing you the first image of Nicolas Cage as Raiders head coach turned iconic broadcaster John Madden, and Christian Bale as Raiders team owner Al Davis. David O. Russell is directing a film. We're also going to get John Mulaney playing Trip Hawkins. Now, that might not be a name everybody knows, but Trip Hawkins is the guy who launched the Madden video game. And Catherine Hahn as Virginia Madden, Sienna Miller as Carol Davis. This has got great potential. First of all, I'm sure a lot of you folks know, the Raiders, Al Davis, this iconic character, always had the sunglasses, and he would say, "Just win, baby." And their teams in the 70s in particular, I was a huge fan of because they were such outlaws. Yeah, Ken Stabler and Fred Biletnikoff and the Mad Stork, Ted Hendricks on the defense. They played a certain way, and they were a lot of great athletes, but also they were the Raiders, man, the Raiders. And the thing about John Madden was he was a great coach, and he was a Super Bowl champion, but then he became even more famous with his, work as a TV analyst. He kind of took it to the next level of just being, first of all, knew the game really well, but also very colorful, and with the boom and the telestrator and all that kind of stuff. And then becomes more famous as Madden, the game. And, every single NFL player out there waits to see what their Madden rating is going to be. They all play it. So that's become like such a huge thing. So great material there. And Nicolas Cage and Christian Bale, two of the most famous chameleons of our time. In the first photo, you can look it up online. And, again, you don't have to look like them, but it feels like they've each captured the persona, the essence of John Madden and Al Davis, respectively. I can't wait for that one. Here's another one that I think looks really intriguing, guys. And I like the fact that this is a limited series. I think the Madden thing could have been a series as well, either way. But this is going to be Wild Things. And it's not a remake of the Denise Richards, Nev Campbell, Matt Dillon movie, which is still wildly entertaining. This is about Siegfried and Roy. Remember the famous magician performers who worked with the White Tigers for so many years, and they really kind of revolutionized entertainment in Las Vegas. I saw them a million years ago. I think it was the Mirage. You guys will correct me if you're wrong, but I think it was the Mirage. And the White Tigers would be in cages, like glass cages you'd see when you go in a hotel. And I always thought it was a little sad seeing the White Tigers. But, they did these amazing tricks with the Tigers, and it was always, this big, flashy, over-the-top performance. And then infamously, it was 2003, I want to say, when Roy, right? Was it Roy? Roy Horn was attacked by a white tiger during a performance in Las Vegas. He was nearly killed in the accident. He had a lot of health problems after that, and he died of complications from COVID in 2020. Jude Law and Andrew Garfield are going to play Siegfried and Roy. I think that's got a lot of potential. Like, picture those two, right? And it's going to be an 8-part limited series on Apple TV Plus, and the release says it's the wild ride relationship tale of two of the greatest showman magicians in history, who, along with their white tigers, were tasked with turning Sin City into a family-friendly destination. The duo pushed the concept of illusion versus reality to the extreme, personally and professionally, until tragedy reframes and opens a mystery surrounding their last fateful Las Vegas show. I mean, lots of dramatic material there. Can't wait to check that out. It's interesting because I think talk about Vegas, and now Vegas is so huge, and they got the Sphere and the Raiders and the Golden Knights hockey team. And there's tons of, huge casinos and entertainment and nightclubs and all of that. And Las Vegas has gone through a lot of permutations over the years. If you look at a movie like Bugsy, a great film about Vegas, and the way that it started off with these kind of, downtown Vegas casinos, and then the Strip. And even in the, there were times where it was booming, and then, after the Rat Pack and all that in the 60s, then it kind of, they didn't know what it was going to become. Was it going to be like a hipster nightclub place? And there were efforts to make it very family friendly with the MGM Grand. And they tried to do theme parks, make it like a Disney. And that was always kind of a strange thing, because mom and dad and the kids would go, and the kids would go to the theme rides, but then you'd want to go to the strip clubs or the casinos. And then, they brought it back with kind of the big boom of the 90s and the Bellagio and so many other big properties, and Steve Wynn being a primary architect of that. But Siegfried and Roy were a part of it for a long time, so can't wait to see this. All right, here's another one for you. Are you ready for this? Ryan Murphy, of course, architect of many, many successful shows, has a new legal drama called All's Fair on Hulu. And it's about a team of female divorce attorneys leaving a male-dominated firm to open their own powerhouse practice. That's what they tell us this is going to be about. This is what just, listen, we'll have to give it a chance. Let me just, before I'm going to play the audio of the trailer, but this is what kills me from the announcement about this. The series has an all-star cast, including Kim Kardashian, Naomi Watts, Niecy Nash-Betts, Tiana Taylor, Sarah Paulson, Glenn Close. And I'm like, how are Naomi Watts and Sarah Paulson and Glenn Close and the rest listed after Kim Kardashian? So let's take a listen to the trailer.
You know what a girl's best friend is? Not diamonds. Her lawyers. He hurt you. Get mad. Get hot. Revenge.
What do you ladies think you could possibly hit me with that I haven't seen before?
You're right. Everything we're going to show you today, you should be intimately familiar with.
This is sick, and we are done. And the first thing that I'm going to do is file.
So, here's the thing. Kim Kardashian is very good at playing Kim Kardashian. I know she's acted on some episodes of series and hosted SNL. She was competent on SNL, which gave her this, mostly, effusive reviews because she wasn't horrible. She wasn't as bad as Paris Hilton had been back in the day, I guess. I don't know, man. I'm skeptical about this casting, shall we say. But we'll watch it with an open mind when it comes out this fall. We'll give it a shot, as we will the Siegfried and Roy series and Madden, the one I'm most looking forward to. All right, let's take a break, talk about Portillo's, and then we got some new reviews for you guys. All right, let's talk a little bit about Portillo's. They're known, of course, for their famous Chicago hot dogs with all the freshest and tastiest ingredients, right down to that famous poppy seed bun. Then we have to talk about the legendary chocolate cake. And everybody knows if you've ever been to Portillo's, but if you don't, you never put the cake in the fridge. You have to have it at room temperature. That's how it's delivered to you or handed to you in the restaurant. That's the way you have to taste it. And of course, the menu has everything from the charbroiled burger to Italian beef to some really good chopped salads. But oh, that chocolate cake, I'm telling you. Now, there are locations throughout the Midwest and in Florida, California, and Arizona. But you can also ship Portillo's anywhere in the United States of America by ordering at portillos.com. That's PORTILLOS.com. PORTILLOS.com.
I held him off for years.
Charlie, get up here!
He's a relentless son of a bitch. Won't stop till he finishes the job. Death is coming for our family. But Death doesn't like it when you mess with his plans. This book, it will show you everything you need to know to keep our family safe.
It all started with Grandma. Death is coming for us because we were never supposed to exist. What?
Only by embracing death will it pass you by.
All right, new in theaters is Final Destination Bloodlines. Not to be confused with Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning. This is a different colon/type movie, very different kind of movie. So this, the Final Destination movies, the first one I thought was, gruesome and kind of brilliant, actually. The way, these kind of Rube Goldberg ways of all these contraptions. The whole concept is you cheat death. Death doesn't like it. But instead of death just taking you out, when you cheat death by getting off the plane before it crashes or whatever, death then gets all creative and manipulative and devilish and all these kind of booby trap things, and you die in very creative ways. This is the sixth installment in the Final Destination series. I think the last one, I want to say, more than a decade ago, 2011. So I like this one. I'm giving it 3 stars, by the way. Okay, I'm telling you, if you're into the Final Destination movies, if you can stand a look at a screen when somebody's piercings are caught in something, or someone's in a trash compactor, or some big giant object is going to fall on someone and the blood splatters all over the place. I mean, that's what you're going to get here, But I like this one because it starts in 1968. And you see this character named Iris and her fiance, Paul, attending the opening ceremony of this futuristic Skyview restaurant tower. And Iris has this premonition about this huge disaster with the glass floor beneath the guests cracking and a gas heater igniting an explosion, and the tower collapses and everybody dies. And we get to see this play out in an extended prologue. Really well filmed and gruesome and dark. It doesn't matter if you're a nice person or even a child in these setups. If you're doomed, you're doomed. But it turns out that this Iris character managed to get everybody out of the tower. and saved their lives before the tower collapsed. And then every single guest, worker, valet parker, server, chef, or whatever at that restaurant was systematically eliminated by death, except for Iris. So now Iris is a recluse, and she's living in this place where she's got it all booby trapped. She keeps cheating death and figuring out that if she never leaves this place, but she's got a granddaughter. Okay, a granddaughter, Stephanie, is now having all these nightmares about that tower collapse. She's somehow connected from 1968, and it turns out that death is going to go after the bloodlines of the survivor, Iris. So grandchildren or grandnieces or whatever. So the rest of it now is all these young people, and of course, Stephanie believes it's real. They go see old Grandma Iris, and she scares the bleep out of them, and half of the young people say, "Oh my God, Grandma Iris, she knows about death, and she's got a big book of death and how you can avoid death." And the other half are like, "Ha, this is so stupid." And they all tempt fate. "This is dumb. Watch me. I'll walk into traffic. Watch me. I'll dangle over this." It never works out good. Don't be the person that makes fun of Grandma Iris and her premonitions about death. So the rest of the movie then is about the bloodline. So in other words, who's going to go next? The Uncle Howard or Aunt Brenda or the cousins, and who's older than who? And wait a minute, maybe that kid is a different biological father. So maybe he's spared, but maybe not. And one by one, of course, they get killed in creative ways. Question is, does Stephanie make it to the end? And I'm not going to tell you, but for what it wants to be, Final Destination Bloodlines delivers. And it is the kind of movie, I love the TV ads they have the black light, the night vision video of the audience reacting to the preview screening. And they're always reacting like they've never seen a horror movie before. Oh my gosh, if you have high blood pressure or a heart problem, you probably shouldn't even see this. If you're easily triggered, don't see this. And it's the same old fashioned kind of publicity they used to do for The Exorcist 50 years ago. Like, warning, there are reports that people collapsed in the theater. But I thought it was fun. And thank you to Grandma Iris for trying to beat death all those years. Also in theaters is a film that has gotten rave reviews, and I don't agree with the rave reviews, I must say. By and large, great rave reviews. There have been a few negative reviews as well. This one's called Friendship.
Honey, the new neighbor invited you over for a drink at 8 tonight. I said you'd go.
You don't know my schedule.
You sit there every night. Might be nice to have a pal, a bud.
Hey guys, this is my neighbor Craig. He's the best. I was just spiraling. I see the way the guys look at her. I'm scared.
Sheila's lucky to have a dad like you. Look, we had a couple of really nice hangs, but I think it best that we go our separate ways. I don't wish to continue this friendship.
There's a new Marvel out that's supposed to be nuts. We should go see that.
It's one of those films that from the opening shot, you go, I bet this was very popular at film festivals, aggressively indie. And that could be a really cool thing. There's a certain kind of alt soundtrack going on, and it's filmed in a kind of docudrama style. And this has an intriguing premise that I think probably would have worked as a short, or as we often say, as an SNL sketch, but wears out its welcome as a feature film. So it's what they call like a cringe com, which is kind of a cringy term, but we cringe anyway. And it's like, it's in the vein of something like Curb Your Enthusiasm when you watch it, but you're like cringing the whole time. And Tim Robinson has become a huge star because of his kind of cringe style of comedy. I a lot of people love it. It's not quite my thing. If it's done well, this type of comedy, it just hits or it doesn't hit. So Tim Robinson plays a local. It's kind of set in a generic. It looks very much like maybe Minnesota, but the town is fictional. But it's kind of a Midwest America. Clearly, it's a town that has weather, a lot of snow and rain and things like that. And in kind of a middle class neighborhood, Tim Robinson plays a guy. He's got a pretty good job actually. He works for a firm that specializes in apps that get you basically addicted to products. And his wife, Tammy, played by the wonderful Kate Mara, is a cancer survivor, and she's got a floral business, and they got a teenage son who actually loves his mom and dad. Actually likes hanging out with them, and not the usual. He's a little brooding, but not usual. So there, he's got a pretty comfortable middle class life, but he's a guy that really never leaves the house. Creature of habit. He's the guy at work that everybody makes fun of, who tries to fit in with people and just doesn't know how to answer and react to social cues, and is awkward, and also has an anger problem. Not very likable guy. So a lot of times you feel sorry for these sad sacks here. You're like, well, I wouldn't want to hang out with this guy either. And then Paul Rudd's character moves in to the neighborhood, and he is his name is Austin Carmichael, and he's super cool. He's got a mustache. He's got a hip hairstyle. He plays in a cool band. He collects antique weapons, and he's the local weatherman on TV. So Tim Robinson's character Craig develops this big man crush on Austin, and at first they become buddies and they bond. But Craig being Craig, he overdoes it. He's overbearing. He's stalkerish. So it's a little bit like the Cable Guy with Jim Carrey, and things like a little bit like, Robinson's Netflix series, I Think You Should Leave. Here's the problem I have with this. The first 45 minutes or so is a great setup. But then as Craig gets increasingly weird and deranged and has this huge, is violent and loud and abrasive, you don't want to spend any more time with this guy. You also wonder why the lovely Tammy has stayed with him all these years. There's no reason. You see no reason like they would have ever gotten together in the first place. So I know it's satire and I know it's aggressive. But to me, friendship, and again, people are loving it. I've seen some critics say it's the funniest movie they've seen in years. If the humor hits you in that way, where you want to see somebody just, self-destruct and just be a horrible human being, for laughs. It didn't work for me. Again, the first 45 minutes or so really interesting, and then it just kept going on, and I unfriended it. Now, let's wrap things up with Netflix. They keep giving us these documentaries about controversial, unique, strange, bizarre, weird characters, and they've done it again. And I'm highly recommending Untold: The Liver King on Netflix.
Liver is king! Liver King, Liver King, Liver King here. I've been working out for the last 35 years. The last 15 of those years, I've been living an ancestral lifestyle. Why eat vegetables when you can what?
Eat testicles. Just bone broth, liver, and meat. That was disgusting, yet very ancestral.
Business had been growing 12% a quarter, every quarter.
We have videos with hundreds of millions of views. Primals, primals, primals. I felt like new levels of invincibility. Light it the fuck up! That kind of feeling is dangerous.
I don't think anybody was ready for what was going to come out when you have all these eyeballs on you.
People would come to me and say, bro, like, come on, he's on steroids. And I would say, no, man, he's not.
Did you miss any people?
Untold. Now, you might know that name, the Liver King. I have to say, I missed most of the Liver King phenomenon when it hit. But so this guy named Brian Johnson, as you may know, became a giant internet star, preaching the virtues of ancestral living. So this is a lifestyle built on core tenets that include eating animals, raw parts of animals, all parts, testicles instead of vegetables, being outside, doing the hunting and the shooting and the bow and arrow, and working out like a maniac, and screaming like you're a Neanderthal. And he actually looked like that. And he's a huge guy with a big beard and his oversized personality. And he and his wife and his two sons made all these viral videos, and you see them, killing a bull and then gutting it and then literally eating the testicles and eating raw liver. And he became a huge star, promoting this persona, brand, selling products, of course. And then it turns out, and the whole time people kept saying, this guy, he's in his 30s, then got to be in his 40s. How could he looks like The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. He's like just so huge and so ripped. And a lot of people were saying he's got to be taking he's got to be juicing. He's got to be taking some sort of PED, some sort of steroid, something. He kept denying it until the receipts came in. And of course he was doing it. So it's all about the buildup of the Liver King, then the fall of the Liver King. I will say this about the Liver King. He consumes bull testicles and liver and all kinds of other raw meats, but he's mostly full of shit. And that's what this is about. And he's still full of shit. And but it's fascinating to watch. And it's fascinating to see how somebody like this can build a brand, especially and create a myth, especially through social media, where people just buy into it for the right reasons, but they're following the wrong guy. So Untold, the Liver King on Netflix. Check it out. That's going to do it for this week's podcast. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll talk soon.